now we tackle the free will question. You know, I was reading a book recently and it asked the question, do we have free will? And if you don't think we do, please turn to page 3. Turn to page 3, it says, gotcha.
How does that demonstrate free will? If you tell somebody to do something and they do it, that no more demonstrates that they have free will than a robot obeying a command. It's actually evidence of determinism.
Point being that we all have a basic awareness that we are making decisions that are ours and that we have at least some significant measure of freedom.
I have no such awareness whatsoever. Everything I do feels either compelled or unconscious.
And there are basically 3 different categories. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not satisfied with these classical categories, but I don't have a 4th. And I'm probably not smart enough to hash one out. So I'll just give you the 3 that are characteristically part of this conversation. The first category is determinism. Determinism is just picture a bunch of dominoes falling. They're events that are caused by prior events. Boom, 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 boom. No mind, no decisions of any kind, just things happening. This is the way the natural world works. Apart from consciousness, you have a deterministic set of events, and if you set up the dominoes in exactly the same way, they're going to fall in exactly the same way every single time because they are determined based on the physical setup. That's why science works the way it does. That's why you can have scientific repeatability. So that's determinism. No choices are made of any kind.
That's bullshit. Determinists believe that the mind and the decisions that the mind makes are themselves domino-like processes.
Things just happen. Then you have freedom. It turns out there are 2 different types of freedom, 2 different ways of defining freedom, and these are important depending on how your theology goes. So let me give you the first one, because both definitions trade on basic intuitions that we have about what it's like to make a free choice. The first definition of freedom is you do what you want. Your choice is free if you are doing the choosing and you're doing what you want. You're not being forced by some exterior thing that causes you to do what you do. Instead, you're just choosing.
What do you think choices are? If they are not determined, they are, by definition, chance events.
Most people think that's a pretty good way of characterizing freedom of the will. We exercise our will, and if we can do what we want, then our act is free.
In such a scenario, a person whose wants determine their decisions would have free will. I think it's silly to call our decisions free if they are entirely controlled by our wants.
Okay. Now, some are not satisfied with that, and there are reasons for this. They want to add another condition. That is, freedom of the will entails, much of the time, doing what you want, but it also needs to entail the possibility of doing something else. It could be that you are doing what you want, but if you have no real possibility of doing some other thing instead, then that's not considered real freedom. So this idea of you could have done otherwise is a condition that many people will add to freedom. It's called the CDO condition, the could have done otherwise condition. And if you are doing what you want and you could have done otherwise, that is a more refined understanding of freedom.
How is this distinct from our choices being random, or at least partly random? To say that a choice could have been something else, assuming, I guess, that no other variables would have been different, is to say that such a choice had no cause. In other words, we make the choices we do for no reason.
I don't think it's possible for us to live a sinless life. I seem to want to sin, and sometimes I want to do right, but even when I want to sin and I do the sinful things, these are things that are to some degree dictated by my nature. Now, how that all plays out in our theology is a complex kind of notion.
I'll say, you essentially believe that we should be judged based on factors over which we have no control. Thanks again for helping me out on Patreon.